Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you 5 things you probably didn't know about virtual assistants. Now I've been in the Amazon space since 2021, so it's been a few years now, and I've known many VAs that are both still currently virtual assistants and also VAs that have moved on to do other things, but of course have that knowledge and have that experience. I talk to VAs almost regularly, so I've got some pretty good insights into what it is that they do, their lives and so forth. So let's get right on with it, and this will help you understand your virtual assistants even better. If you are going to hire a virtual assistant at some point, it means you're already going in there with a level of understanding. And this isn't stuff that you would typically find in many of the videos or sources out there. I know this stuff because obviously, as I say, I've got a lot of experience and I know lots of virtual assistants. So, Filipino VAs can be too polite, which isn't a problem at all. We like it, but it could hinder aspects of their work. So you need to make sure that you are giving your virtual assistants room to air their thoughts. Now, why is being too polite an issue? Why is being too honest an issue? Well, the thing is, if something's going wrong on their side, if they have something that they don't quite understand, and you say, oh, hey, here's how to reverse or so whatever, do you understand? And they don't understand, they might just say yes anyway to please you. It's that being too polite aspect. It's that being, it's that trying to be nice aspect, which is great, but for those purposes it's not so great. So you need to make sure that you give them the floor and you let them know that, it's okay if the way that I've trained you today, if some parts of that don't make sense, if I've gone too fast or something like that, if that's out of place, you need to make sure that they feel comfortable enough to say so. And you also need to be able to adapt to some of their needs, and that you can meet them halfway on things. And also, if they say, oh, hey, look, the way that you explain stuff to me is a bit difficult, can you try break that down? It's not a reflection on you, it's just a reflection on the way that things have been presented. So don't take anything personally, be open and welcome to feedback, and to be able to work with that VA like they're going to be working with you. That too polite thing, as I say, it can be a hindrance on work if they've not understood something, but they've said yes anyway to try and please you, and then time goes on, work goes on, and there's some aspects that have troubled you. You won't know what exactly that is, or you won't be able to pinpoint it, and it'll just become a bit of a mess because they've not had the room to air their thoughts. So that's the first one. VAs may have other jobs that you might not know about. So when you've conducted an interview with a VA, was one of the things that you talked about if they currently have any other obligations, anything like that. If you didn't do that, then there is a chance that they may have other jobs. I mean, even if you did do that, like I say, they're very honest, but you can't take that as gospel, okay? There may be some jobs that they aren't telling you about. So again, you will only really know if you have some sort of monitoring system in place whilst they are working. So for example, Bybot Pro is really good for this. So in that software, they have the virtual assistant toolbox where there's screenshots that get taken during their work time when they've tapped start on the timer for when they are working. Obviously, you'll be able to track the deals that they've submitted, the times that they've logged in, logged out, and so forth. So you get a picture painted of what they're doing, and then from there you'll get a good idea of, is there anything else that's maybe getting in the way of their tasks. It's important that you do what you can to understand this. I mean, you don't force the information out of them because that's not very comfortable for you or them, but you do need to be insistent that it's very important that you know. And if they do have other jobs, if your tasks are still being done to a high standard, great. Nothing to worry about there. You shouldn't find that there's really anything that hinders the task that you've given them. But some VAs, the multitasking isn't really the strong point, so they might be doing some of the jobs to like a really high standard, but because of that, some of the jobs that they're doing for other people get done to a bit of a lower standard. And obviously you're paying them, you want things to be to a high standard, so it's really important that you get an idea of this and what their other commitments are. Most sellers hire Filipino or Indian virtual assistants as they can be paid as little as $2 an hour. Now, before you go, oh, what's that all about? It's simply business arbitrage. It's cost effective for you because it's not going to cost you very much at all to pay your employees. And on the other hand, it's good for them. So for you, like $2 might not be a lot. Okay, in Western culture, that sort of thing isn't a lot. But for them, it is. And that can give them a good life. It'll help them with bills. It will help them with groceries. It will help them do the things that they want to do. And it's literally no trouble. Okay? It seems like it's not a lot for us, but for them it is. And it's in no way any form of exploitation. If you still have that feeling of, oh, well, I feel like I maybe should be paying them more, then you can go ahead and pay them more if you want. But I'm just saying, you can pay virtual assistants as little as $2 to $5 an hour, somewhere in that range. And if you want to pay them more, you can pay them more. You know, if that's all good with you, they'll be like, wow, that's absolutely amazing. You know, I'm treated really well by my employer, and it really will help them turn things around, like financially, in a really, really, really good way. It will take them to the next level. So that's the deal with pay. VAs need regular updates and potentially training in order to keep things tight. So with a virtual assistant, you might do a bit of training with them at the start, but then if you don't keep checking in with them, if you don't maybe do some odd bits of training here and there, some skills may not be as sharp as others. Things like Amazon policies and so forth, you need to make sure that they're aware of anything that's obviously going to affect their workload, and maybe things that they find for you and so forth. So like if there's a change with, say, the bundling policy, and you might need to take a bit of a step back from bundles, and they're still focused on finding you bundles and so forth, it's probably not a good idea for that to keep happening. If, say, you're now looking for things that have a minimum of 40% ROI as opposed to 30, then you need to communicate with that. You need to communicate that with them. Otherwise, you may still get an influx of deals that don't quite meet that deal criteria that you have. So please make sure that you are having regular meetings with them. Even if you haven't got any specific training as such, you know, any little bits of news, even just a little conversation just to make sure everything's okay, you know, that's perfect. It doesn't have to be every single day either. It can be like once a week. As long as you've got it somewhat semi-regular at least, then that's good enough. Anything that they need to be aware of, you let them know. And, you know, you don't even have to wait till the next meeting. If you want to ping them an email or a message or something with all the details of, say, hey, Amazon's changed this, so we're going to do things this way, you know, be in communication with them. You know, but do they know? So make sure that they know. VAs can be very loyal and very honest. Okay, so sometimes on platforms like TikTok, you might see virtual assistants pop up with just copy and pasting the same message, like hire me, I can find deals and so forth, in like loads of comment sections, even where it's not relevant whatsoever. You might see things like this and go, oh, hold on a minute, you know, this is what a lot of bot accounts do that are just trying to sell something or scam. You know, what's the deal with this? And it might then put you off of the idea of virtual assistants. However, don't let that put you off, okay? Some virtual assistants that do things like that, some are genuine, some aren't. I mean, it's the same with loads of things in life. You'll have some genuine things, some not so genuine things. Hence why bots, scammers exist. Okay, doesn't matter what field you're in, there's always going to be something like that going on. Okay, you're always going to have some bad apples. But don't let that affect the rest of your view. Most VAs out there are genuine, they are hardworking, they are loyal, and they are honest. So no matter what you see, what you hear, don't let that affect your view. Yes, there'll be some VAs that don't work out for people, but that might not be necessarily something to do with skill. It might just be that they're not quite the right fit for that business, for that seller. But they could be the perfect fit for another seller, for another business. So when people say, oh, yeah, this VA didn't work out, you know, I've got to hire another one, you need to make sure that you're thinking quite open-mindedly about the reason that person has given. If they've clearly stated, oh, XYZ, like this VA was basically having me on, and they actually didn't do any work in the hours that I'd given to them and so forth, you know, that's a different story. But if it's just something like, oh, I didn't quite work out, why? Something to think about. As I say, most of the VAs out there, and all of them that I know, very loyal, very honest, and that's why it's important to give constructive feedback and let that be back and forth. Let them have a voice, as I said at the start. Reward and recognize their achievements. You know, as I say, if you feel like $2 an hour is a bit too low and you're like, yeah, you know what, I'd still be comfortable if I gave them more, do that. Pay rise where it's earned. Some form of rewards program. I would say, okay, I expect you to find, I don't know, 20 deals today, but if you happen to hit 30, you know, have a bit of a bump on that. If you can find a deal that's over X amount ROI and it's legit, a bit of commission there, something like that. And that's a great way that you can reward and recognize the virtual assistant's achievements, and this will create a nice bond with them. You don't have to be best friends like for life, but as long as work is pleasant, as long as you get on well with them and the work goes well, you have got yourself a awesome VA, and it makes sense to keep enriching that bond through things like this. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that has helped instruct you and help open your mind to a bit more of what's going on in the VA world. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you soon.